and woke up the morning of my children's first day of school, and I pulled the blinds for my daughter to look out and see our tree of life in the back of our brownstone. There was a giant sign hung on the multifamily building behind my home that said, "Fuck you, MaryAnne."
Everybody, welcome back to Confronting the Impossible. My name is Leo Jacobs. I'm your host for my podcast, where we talk about the trials and tribulations and the confrontations of what it's like to confront the impossible. I have a wonderful, wonderful lady with me today. Her name is MaryAnne Gilmartin. She is the CEO and founder of MAG Partners. Welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's
Excellent.
wonderful to be next to a powerhouse New York City developer right here on Fifth Avenue. We have the wonderful Central Park right in back of us, and what some of the wonderful buildings that are across from here you've worked on, okay? Today on Confronting the Impossible, we're going to discuss a little bit of what that means and some of the things that you've had to face to get to the top. I believe your name is very well known in the industry, and I want to talk about who you are, how you've come to be, and what things you have to develop in adversity, in the fire, to make sure that one is successful or can call themselves successful. So please tell us about yourself first and foremost, and we'll get into the grill.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I love the name of the podcast, and I'm honored that I have an opportunity to sit here and talk to you today. I am, in my essence, a humble girl from Queens. I was born
from Queens too.
Yes, I know. Another reason I thought to join you.
Nice.
So I was born in Rockaway.
Rockaway Beach.
Yes. And in Rockaway, it's in my community in Rockaway when I was born there. My father left when I was very young. And my mother thought we need to leave Rockaway before I married somebody I might be related to. It's a very, very, we call it the Irish Riviera. It's a community, yes, Irish, Irish American, Irish ancestors.
John F. Kennedy was Irish.
Yeah. So I left Rockaway when I was young, but, Queens girl through and through, and came from a pretty unstable family household, which I think is relevant only because in the business that I'm in, if you need everything tickety-boo at the end of the day, it's probably not the right business for you.
No.
So I think one of the reasons why I'm particularly strong at being nimble, pivoting, change, is that the only thing that we knew growing up was that whatever we thought was the case would not necessarily be the case in any given day, week, or year.
So talk to me about the first, not go to the height, but talk about some of the first bold bets that you had to make to kind of cement your reputation in this community and what community that was. So tell me about that.
Well, I'll start by saying my mother was a hippie, so she wanted to relive the glory days of Woodstock. So she picked up her three girls and moved to Woodstock and married for a second time, and married a libertarian, which at the time, I don't know that I knew what a libertarian really was. Now we all know more about that. But this is a person who believed that taxation without representation was alive and well, did not believe that Americans were taxed appropriately, and ended up in a pickle with the IRS. And so much so that when I was trying to pull myself up out of my circumstances and get myself to college based on some really good mentors in my high school years, I applied to universities and really mortgaged myself off to the school that would give me the most money.
And how old were you at that?
So 17 and a half.
So the adversity began at a young age.
Yes. It was about pulling myself up and saying that I wanted a different future. I wanted to change the circumstances around.
What was the anchor to that, I guess, misery, if you will?
I would say it wasn't misery as much as it was
Challenge?
Chaotic. It was unpredictable.
Volatility?
Yeah, and I think my mother's gift to us was to say that nobody's going to bring you your happiness, and nobody's going to figure it out. You have to figure it out yourself.
What was the derivative? What caused that volatility? Is it the dad that
bad choices in men? I think that she married young. In the community that my mother came from, you either went to the nunnery or you got married very young.
And where were you living? You were living in Rockaway Beach, Queens.
Rockaway to Woodstock, right? So that
Woodstock
that
is
journey,
where, forgive me.
It's 2 hours north. It's where Woodstock took place, but it's really a community at the time. It was an IBM community for which my stepfather at the time was a river pilot. He navigated ships down the Hudson River. It's a weird job, odd job, a really good job, but his work was different, and so we were a different family. They were hippies. They carried on. Raised my sister and I raised our siblings. Again, they were really. It was a reverse kind of role. We were the nurturers. We were the ones that kept the household. There was a lot of unpredictable. Yeah, the parenting of the parent, which can happen sometimes in certain households.
And the reason your dad left was?
Well, my real father ran away with the babysitter.
Aha.
So that was early on in my day. I was 2.
And how old were 2?
Yeah. And then my mother remarried, and he ultimately left as well. So I think like this unstable, not necessarily having a patriarchal family unit.
Instability
at the core.
At the core, and it invited success.
I would say resilience.
I like that.
A bit of grit.
I like that.
A bit of grit, which is we were all trying to figure out a way through it. I'm very close with my sisters.
2 sisters, right?
And then 2 brothers from.
You're oldest or youngest?
I am the middle daughter, but there are 5 in total, so I'm second from the oldest.
Okay.
And so this idea that I did very, very well in school.
You liked education.
I like to learn. Yeah, I was an awkward teenager as well. So I read a lot of books, and I was a very good girl. But I'd say I didn't necessarily have bold ambitions. I just thought to myself that there were better things than what I was experiencing in Woodstock and Kingston. So I had my eye on trying to go to college and really learn, because learning was
innate. It was innate.
Innate, curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So you didn't delve into, drugs, rock and roll, or something like that.
I mean, given that my mother's rule was never steal your parents' drugs. Like it was, my sisters and I never did any drugs. We never took their drugs. We dressed our brothers and got them to school in the morning. And this is kind of the way that
5 of you.
Yeah,
5 of you.
5.
2 brothers, 3, all in the same household.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's some chaos. There was some discipline in the chaos with your mother, right?
A lot of chaos, and we were good girls, and so dutiful, and leaving for college felt like it was a form of abandonment, leaving my mother.
Of course. And where did you go to college?
So as I was saying about my stepfather was a libertarian, so when I applied to colleges, I was just looking for the most money to get out, and so I found out through my application process that I owned a home, 2 motorcycles, a boat, and a car. And that is because my stepfather put all of his assets in my name to avoid the IRS. No, it's not good when you're looking for financial aid. And
that's right.
And your
financial aid.
your parents are on the cusp of bankruptcy, and he's going the line on. So my stepfather ended up in a federal prison in Lower Manhattan for tax evasion. They garnished his salary.
That's horrible.
It's horrible. He was on his way out. It really jammed up my quest to go to university, and I have to thank the Jesuits at Fordham University who really took mercy on me. They unpacked my story, and they saw that how is it possible for someone just shy of 18 to own a home
this much, yeah,
to have all these assets. And so he at that point was estranged from my mother. And they ended up giving me a very, very generous scholarship to go to Fordham. And I went to Fordham because it was the easiest way for me to go to university and figure out how to pay for it. I worked 2 jobs. I was a Phi Beta Kappa summa cum laude when I graduated. I was really there to I was there to learn and to figure my life out. And college was not, these joyous years of having fun and living with reckless abandonment. It was really a period of discovery and I would say maturity for me that probably made me wise beyond my years, just given my circumstances.
So separation from dad or a dad figure, right? Early on,
lack of.
So, having a father. It should be anchoring in a good way, but I guess in your situation anchored you the exact opposite way, and it created volatility in your life. That's very interesting. But from that, great things occurred because resilience was born, grit was born, holding yourself by your own, I guess, shoelaces was born, and in your mother's chaos of I guess discipline. Don't touch my drugs, right? You were like, okay, I can't do that. I have to put and swim against the tide,
And she relied on men, I
Interesting,
suppose,
interesting,
in
very
ways
interesting.
that really determined her destiny. And then later in life, we were able to give her a form of stability so that she could have a calmer life. But I'd say that all that chaos and all of that uncertainty was always wrapped up in a relationship as opposed to
As opposed to?
standing up her life on her own. And so she came to that realization that investing in other people to bring you happiness was a mistake.
So did you take that lesson as don't rely on others, rely on yourself?
Yes.
But you have a big team.
No, I think you have to take that statement and you have to really unpack it and say, what does that really mean? It means don't rely on other people to bring you happiness, to figure things out. I mean, you have to take control and agency over your life. However, nothing great can be done without others. So I think it's
Exactly.
this idea of not believing it. You go at it alone. No man is an island. No woman's an island. I think it's this idea that folks that really have expectations that other people are going to bring them things,
Exactly.
that's probably not a great life philosophy. And that part of it, I would take to be a gift.
So Jordan Peterson said, I don't know if you know who Jordan
I
Peterson
do
is.
indeed.
He said in life you could either be a slave, you could be a tyrant, or you could negotiate. And I think in the beginning there was a lot of tyranny kind of surrounding you in what were the circumstances of your father maybe leaving, and that tyrannization of internal, like what's happening to me and where's that stability, kind of went to its way to negotiate a path in your life and say, I got to stick to my education here. Stick to my education. Don't do drugs. Be a good girl. And something will be born out of that. And I think that's the definition of resilience. That's the definition of grit. That's what I think you're built on, which is absolutely fascinating.
And what's interesting is a messy family can also be a very nurturing and life-giving family. And so through all of that messiness, because you don't pick your family, right? You come from your parents and you pick your community, but your family is your family. And so the bond I have with my sisters and our each of our journeys and, how we all tried to figure our way through is really quite fascinating. But we did it with a bond that I think was unbreakable and also gets this idea that
was the
not
core.
looking to somebody else to figure your stuff out, but at the same time relying on people and learning how to trust the people that have your best interest at heart is also a very, very big part of how I came through my childhood.
Excellent. And what's the separation?
2 years.
I'm not going to ask you how old
Yeah,
you
2
are.
years.
In 2 years. So
Two and two.
So you guys relied on each other.
Yes.
How about the brothers?
A little bit more age difference, different fathers, and much more of being the caregiver.
To them
to
or
them,
them?
to
To
them, because
them.
they were younger.
So I have a friend. He's actually a registered nurse. He's a male. He's in the same situation as you are. He takes care of his little brothers. They're both going to, I think, one of them's going to law school, one of them's going to med school. Mm-hmm. He really lost a little bit or a piece of himself in the investment of making sure that they are essentially who they should become. Their dad left them when they were young. One of his best friends, and sometimes I feel like I'm being his dad and taking him through certain things. I do disagree on one point about you can't choose your family. You could run away and choose someone else, right? You could run away and choose someone else or live with someone else. I think that you are correct from who you come out of, figuratively
Your
and
birth
literally.
your birth family,
right?
right?
Your birth family, you can't pick. But we're in a big city, and there are a lot of mentors. There are a lot of people you can mentee. Tell me who those people were. Who instructed your life past the primordial soup, right? You go to college, you become, you identify with something. I'm assuming you said Phi Beta Kappa or something like that, right?
Phi Beta Kappa, yeah.
Phi Beta Kappa. That's a sorority.
It's a designation of just like a near perfect GPA.
Okay.
It's an honor society. The point being that I came from a very small school in Kingston, New York. I didn't have, SAT training. I didn't have any of the things that would set you up for it. But just through, again, grit, resilience, and a desire to learn and my own curiosity, I did extremely well at Fordham. I have views about whether that school would have been the best school for me to push me and my abilities, but I have a lot of gratitude. I want to go back to the family comment.
Of course.
I want to make sure that what I'm saying is heard, which
Absolutely.
is that when you come from such a dysfunctional family, there's this idea of shame. that my
Okay.
parents were potheads. My stepfather ended up in jail. My real father left. That's not exactly.
That's destructive, right? Those are the tenements
And
of
those things are
destruction right there.
not like
Right.
my siblings and I. We didn't choose those things, right?
We did not, no.
So when I say that you don't pick your family, what I mean is, as children, we learn very early that you're dealt a hand, right?
Yes.
And like you said, you could be the slave, or you could be the tyrant, or you could negotiate.
Right.
And I think what we all came from was a place where the resiliency, the grit, and the self-belief or the self-confidence was really the great trifecta that allowed us to kind of
Negotiate your way out of it.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say. Adversity can break people. In my business, I'm a restructuring lawyer, okay? And we restructure millions of square feet in the city. And we're talking, prominent families, the people you always read about that are looking good but not really so good, and billions of dollars in restructuring. There are, and Wayne Greenwald, who is a senior counsel, and Robert Sass was the partner in the bankruptcy division. He always says, he's like, Lee, I just want to let you know, in my years of experience, I've only been doing this for 12 years. They've been doing it for 30 and 40, respectively. I love your audacity of hope, but I want to let you know not every heart is going to survive, and some people are going to break. And the reason I say that to you is because somewhere there, consciously or unconsciously, in that volatility, in the destructive, demonstrative kind of your life, right? Your life in that space, you made a choice. You made a choice to be resilient. You made a choice to be in a position of taking grit. I don't think everyone had those positive views. So dare I say, I think it was up to you in that moment.
Well, might I say that some would say confronting the impossible, like to get out of it, to make something of it, might have been to some an impossibility, right?
Correct.
And
And
lots
I'm
of excuses for why it couldn't have happened.
Correct. People succumb to their circumstances and they choose who they become in spite of adversity. And some succumb to being the lesser parts of society, as some would say, being a drunk, being, frankly, a prostitute, or being something that's not so desirable or has a different place in society. We don't want to put anybody down, of course.
And I don't know that it's always a conscious decision. It might be just being beaten down. Sometimes it's other mental health issues,
Of course.
or, inherited behaviors and things that make it harder again to transcend past it and fight either genetics or history.
Well, it's clear to say you have a steel back, right? It's clear to say you steel, or you've improvised enough in your life in playing the role of the character that you want to play, and we'll talk about that, right? Because there's a big role with MaryAnne, because there's a big character there with MaryAnne, and I think we'll call it the primordial soup, where you came out of, and you've disciplined your way through. Now you're in a place where you are seen, you are heard. You're on this podcast with me today, and that's one of the facets of confronting the impossible internally. Now let's talk a bit about, what you want to maybe talk about, which is one of your foremost biggest projects, and that has instructed your professional life,
Yep.
which is the Barclays Center, right? Which is that development. That development is a big feat. It's not small. It'll take us another slice of your skin, right? The pound of flesh that you have to invest into yourself to make things work. And I want you to define what that sentence means. What makes things work? I don't think it's just putting A, B, C together and getting 1, 2, 3. I want you to talk about the machinations you had to go through, the ordeal that you had to kind of overcome. And I don't even think that it's, not because you were just a woman. And I'm sure that there's a dynamic that we're going to talk about, right? But this project that you worked on, it was glorious for many, many reasons. I want you to tell me why, and I want you to tell me about the project, and tell me about that experience.
As a developer, you are what you build, I think. And so if you build a great building, as in the life of a developer, I think you could be super proud. So my breakout project was the New York Times headquarters, because I competed for it. My then CEO told me we wouldn't win. It was an object lesson to let me chase it and lose, and
Excellent.
we won. So I'd say to be in my 30s and win that assignment as a partner to the New York Times, the Gray Lady, at the time AAA rated credit, and to build an iconic building with Renzo Piano, that was huge. It was huge for me. It was huge for the company. When we became a REIT at Forest City and we had to do an E&P purge and book value creation for our piece of the building, which was just the 28th floor to the 54th, $1 billion of value creation.
So give me the massive stats behind the New York Times building. Give me those stats if you got them.
So it's a 1.6 million square foot building built in Times Square, a place the New York Times called its namesake for 100 years. They move every 100 years. They were picking a developer, and the competition was fierce. There were 5 developers picked. We were Brooklyn based, building Metrotech, building scrappy buildings, not as Bruce said, my portrait's not in the Met next to Arthur Stolzberger's. So we were the underdog extraordinaire. And the New York Times, to their credit, ran a meritocracy. They ran a process that was to pick the best developer. I had built Madame Tussauds and AMC movie theaters on the south side of 42nd Street. We knew how to build in that district, and we competed. But when I went to Bruce Ratner and said, I want to chase this, we were invited. We got invited because when I joined Forest City, Bruce would never leave Brooklyn. And I'd be like, hey, how are we going to get in the big game?
Previous partner.
Bruce is the visionary leader of Forest City. And I then called 5 of the top real estate brokers in New York, cold called them, and asked them to lunch at the Four Seasons. And every trip from Brooklyn to the Four Seasons, Bruce would yell at me like, why are we doing it? It's the stupidest thing in the world. These people don't care about us.
Why do you think that?
Well, why did I even how did I come up with that idea?
Oh,
but because I was thinking we got to get out of Brooklyn and we need to be in the big league. So MaryAnne Ty was one of the brokers I called. You share a name. It's odd, 2 women in the business. She was up here and I was here. And we took her to lunch, and she ultimately represented the New York Times in this competition to find a developer. And she called me and said, I want to put you on the list. And Bruce said to me, no way, no how are you going to waste our time and our money? We're not doing it. And I said, Bruce, I think we could win.
There's a ticket to get in. It costs money.
Well, it is the cost of the chase,
of course,
and the distraction, and the fact that he was the boss. So I said, even for an object lesson, could you just let me do this? And if I'll lose, and I'll learn a lot.
So there's internal fighting.
Just proper friction. Friction can create light, fire.
Constructive criticism, but fierce constructive criticism.
Well, he was the boss. I had to win him over, and so he said to me, "Fine, you can chase it." And so I assembled a group of people. And again, these are the kinds of things that nobody ever taught me these things, but I thought, we're going in to see the New York Times. We're going into their Eagle Room to present for this project. And I told the intern, we have to keep it so that everybody at the table has a role, and we need to have some levity. So you have to dress up like an old New York Times 1921 newspaper boy with a cap and loafers and a big bag, and we're going to put a schedule in there and an oversized scissor. And in the middle of the presentation, you're going to burst into the room, cut the schedule in half, and say that we can deliver this building on time and on budget. And it was hysterical. I mean, it was hysterical. And so the New York Times had report cards for each developer and each person on the development team, and they graded them. And
interesting.
What I think set us apart was we were not the obvious choice. We were technically capable because we had just built this massive project. We knew all the politics. We knew how to build the buildings. And they basically liked the fact that every single person on our team had a voice in the presentation. It's not just the chairman holding court and speaking.
Right. You shared that responsibility.
Everybody showed their stuff. The builders, the marketers, the leasing team.
A true show and tell.
Of the deep capability of the team. And there was a life lesson there, right? Which is that nobody dominated and said, I'm going to speak for everyone around this table. The Times picked up on that. We were qualified, and they were running a meritocracy. Lo and behold, they picked us to build this building. This
Excellent.
was getting our company out of Brooklyn to build in Times Square. And it takes thousands of people to do anything as big and great as that.
In such a short amount of time, and in that age, it was pretty gratifying.
Through 9/11, we built one of the first skyscrapers after 9/11, which, as you might recall, everybody was wondering whether anybody would want to be at the top of a building after 9/11 across from the Port Authority in a high terrorist target location. So many lessons for that first project. I would say it was my breakout project because nobody expected us to win. It's not about one person, but if there's one person who was affiliated, associated, and given credit for that, it was me. And so inside of my own organization, I catapulted up because we won this massive commission, and then we had to go build it.
Yeah,
And we
big
built
balls, I'd like to say, right?
Yeah,
Big balls to
exactly.
go get
If you
it,
can
right?
imagine, yes.
Or big ovaries, whatever
And
you wanna
all the
call it.
brokers laughed and said, "There's no way you're getting $100 a foot at the top of the building." They laughed me out of the room. And the same brokers, when we went to lease this object of beauty, this masterpiece of the modern millennium, would say to me, "I need to leapfrog over XYZ law firm. I need to be in that building. I want to be at the top of that building." So there was some comeuppance, and there was some real gratification for me to have such conviction that this building, designed by Renzo Piano, partnering with the New York Times, being built as an iconic modern masterpiece, would hold its value. And lo and behold, it was a huge value creator for the company, for my brand, and for my future.
Excellent. So, in the beginning there was resilience, that was great. Then in your professional career, there's rejection. There's rejection of the ideal of actually developing it just from your from your boss itself.
Yep.
There's rejection of the ideal of the brokers that are trying to help you and the brokers that are not trying to help you.
Yep.
There's probably some doubt there and self-doubt. Always. Like
But you never let them see you sweat.
Right.
So the doubt has to be
the crippling anxiety going into that room and being fierce but trembling inside. That feeling is a liberating feeling in a way when you get it done. Because when you get even with me, when I get a big client, when we surge and we kick a lender's ass, all up on the wall, and we're on the newspaper, I'm the front Times, you always say, "You said no, I did it. You said no again, I did it. You said no again." So confronting the impossible is in the confrontance of rejection, you keep moving, keep going.
I think forward motion is really important. I think at times I'm unstoppable without even realizing how unstoppable I am. I do not know how to give up. And the harder it is, probably the more interested I am.
Do you run hot sometimes? Do
Yes.
people say you run hot? Yes.
Yes.
How do you cool your engines? What do you spa? You go pet a dog or something like that? How do you because your internal temperature is 98.6. Your brain is 110, right? Any caliber beyond that, you frankly, you almost kind of die inside every day, and you have to keep cool. So what does someone, a prolific powerhouse New York City developer, that is a woman, right? Not that it makes any fucking difference, but for intensive purposes, maybe it does. What do you do to keep an even keel? What do you do?
So I'm older than you. I'd say, time really does teach you about your superpowers. And being a parent, very humbling, right?
You have
People
kids?
talk about, oh yes, I have 3 children. And I used to say, like, what is power? I can't control the remote control in my house. I don't pick what we order when we order out. Like, I have no power in my house. And so it's great to be a parent because it really keeps your feet on the ground because your kids don't care. They don't care who you are outside in that world, right? So I love, first and foremost, being a parent and a mother. Like, it's my first
amazing.
profession. It's my finest work. My children are everything to me. So I
That's
think
beautiful.
I really do think that it starts at home. And then from there, I probably felt like I was abandoning my kids every day to go to work. If we just go back to what happened to me, I was abandoned, right? So I used to say, if I have to leave every day, my children, it better be good. Like, really fucking good.
Worth the cause.
the trade-off. And so I knew early on in my life I could never be in a job or a career where I didn't feel passionate, where I didn't feel like I could make a contribution, make a dent in the world, make them proud. Like, what do I have in my profession? I have the physical manifestation of all my toiling. So you want to talk about impossible? Yeah, it was hard to build the New York Times building. Very hard to build New York by Geary downtown. Super hard to build Barclays Center and Atlantic Yards. But guess what? When my kids remember where I was, they were at the top of the hoist. They were down in the hole. And when we ride around the city, I have the great benefit of pointing to the buildings that were being built when this one was graduating, when this one was in ballet, when this one was on the basketball team. I can actually point to the physical concrete manifestations of my work. And I think as a developer, that's a huge thing because people who push paper, push buttons, right, and don't necessarily have a tangible something. I have an ability to speak to my children about what I did every day when I left, and it's really helpful to someone like me to be able to show the work, to be proud of the work,
The
to know
achievement.
those buildings are going to be on the skyline for all of my days, all of their days. That is an incredible bounty to be able to bring home to your children. And I feel very fortunate for that because I need that kind of satisfaction. I need to be able to have an ability to take an inventory of what am I doing when I'm doing? What's it all about? What's it for?
How old are they?
Well, now they're 27,
Do they
25,
Do they
and
believe?
21.
Beautiful. Do they believe in what you're doing?
Enormously.
Because not everyone accepts their parents' futures.
Yeah.
Some people don't, and that is the truth. We spoke on other podcasts and other people that I speak with. They say, well, I need this. I am someone that has to take bounty and take stock of what I did, and I can show and I can tell. Some people can disagree with you on that. It's a pleasure to know that both sides of your, I guess both sides, which is personal and professional life, they now blend. They now blend and they kind of coincide with each other because you didn't spend a lot of time with your children, I'm assuming.
Well, I can tell you that I probably was the early adopter of you're not at work, you're on work. And so
you're on work. It's
I used to
interesting.
say that. I was happy to work at 11 o'clock at night. And as long as I could have dinner with my kids and put them to sleep, I made a very significant shift when my children were, two of them in high school and one in elementary school. I decided to move everybody to Brooklyn from Edgemont, New York.
Where do you live now?
And I live in Park Slope, but I moved
Wonderful place.
my entire family to the belly of the beast in the battle for Barclays while I was ascending to be CEO. While the project was kicking off, I moved right in the hotbed of the opposition. So much so that when I bought a brownstone and woke up the morning of my children's first day of school and I pulled the blinds for my daughter to look out and see our tree of life in the back of our brownstone, there was a giant sign hung on the multifamily building behind my home that said, "Fuck you, MaryAnne." And so this is the sort of battle that we were in to build that project and what it was like. And so my children...
Disagreement. People disagree with you.
It was a controversial project because it was condemnation, eminent domain.
Of course.
It was big, as the great
Power of the government.
Mayor Bloomberg would say, to do anything great in the city, Central Park, you need the power of government to assemble, right? But I brought my family into my work in a way that I don't even know that I appreciated what I was doing when I brought them to Park Slope. And so my children really did know a lot about my work because they were in a very small community in Park Slope where it was friend or foe, supporter or opponent
So
of
they
Barclays.
had that. They had a little bit of that volatility as well.
They also
They
were
felt
ball
that.
boys for the Nets. They had other things that brought them into the fold in ways that were wondrous and probably near impossible for anybody that didn't
They're
have.
probably proud every time they
Oh,
work
they're
in
very
Barclays.
proud. They're very proud.
This is my mom's. This is my mom's. This is my mom's, right?
My young men, the boys that I've raised, have very positive views about women in the world and in civic life and in professional life. And my daughter is part sumo wrestler and part princess. She's got a great combination of grit as well.
Is she really a sumo wrestler?
No, she isn't in a kind of a metaphorical sense. I'd say like when
She's a big personality.
Fierce in a
Fierce,
way that,
fierce,
you know,
okay.
you probably, I don't know your background, but I'd say that when you come from what I come from, I spent a lot of my time trying to make sure that my children didn't have economic insecurity, didn't have the kind of volatility that I grew up with. And then you have to worry, are they going to have resilience? Are they going to have grit?
Yes, because that doesn't come without a price.
And what about entitlement, which is a huge bugaboo for me? Entitlement is where
Can't stand that shit.
zero tolerance for
Yes.
it. So when
I
you
agree.
change your circumstances and then provide a life for your family that might be dramatically different than where you come from, you confront this idea that will they really have grit? Will they understand what it means to be fierce and to be so determined to live your best life?
Well, I want to go to two things, okay, which is very, very important. Money, okay, and the other part is, did any parts of your personal life, other than not seeing your children as much as you could have, suffer? So let's talk about money for a second, okay? Did money surround you, and were you successful when it came to money, or did you have to run on empty effectively? Kind of you're going to this New York Times building, but not a dollar in your name or a dollar in your pocket. Like typically, I mean, I believe in God. I don't know if you believe in God or Winnie the Pooh or a big energy around this, but whatever it is that you believe in, you could feel free to say it or not. You know, God doesn't really give you everything right away, and what he does, he kind of challenges you for it, and he you know he adjusts you accordingly depending on your resilience and your confidence. So I want to talk about money and where was that, and where's their comfort there, right? Was there comfort there? Did you get that money? Were you making a lot of money? What was the relationship with money and these big projects? Tell me about that.
So in my childhood, my stepfather got paid once a month, and so in the beginning of the month we had lunch money. At the end of the month, we didn't. So I have a saying. It was like, I need to know where my lunch money is. If you don't know where your lunch money is, it's destabilizing. So I live my life making sure I know where my lunch money is. And so I'd say that developers don't always like to share. I think I worked in economic development on the public side for Mayor Koch, and I learned the ropes through the public side. And I had student loans, and I had debt, and I was living in the Bronx on Davidson Avenue. I was stepping over crack addicts to get to my apartment. Like I was
I'm glad
hardcore.
you were upfront about that.
Yeah. No, the city was a different place. When I started to earn money, it was more than I ever could have imagined, but it probably wasn't enough to keep up with my hopes, my ambition, and my desire to raise a family in New York City.
Your future lifestyle was a lot greater than what you had, what you had envisioned it to be. So it was not enough, or was not there for you to.
I don't think I worried so much. I figured it would sort itself out. I do not live beyond my means.
Okay, right.
Because that's the Queens girl in me. Like I'm not going to get overextended, right?
Right.
But like moving to Westchester, I moved to White Plains to raise my children with grass beneath their toes in a way that I felt like I couldn't do in the city. I only came back to the city when I had the means to raise 3 kids in private school in Brooklyn, right? So that was later on in my professional development. So I'd say like every bit of my financial success was hard fought. I married for love, not for money. I
Still
was
married,
the breadwinner. I'm divorced.
Okay.
I married in a way that I didn't worry about money. I didn't like seek someone out because they would provide me with financial stability.
Of course. We talked about that with the mom, right?
Yeah.
Don't expect certain things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
or the dad.
So I'd say now, teaching economic responsibility to my children is really important. I think starting a company, having the audacity to be a woman and go out and found a ground up development company in a city that's dominated by family dynasties, when the only women you'll see as developers are usually heirs of families in New York that are developers.
So let's talk. You segued me right into where I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about the Big Apple.
Yeah.
So the Big Apple definitely, was something, and then I want to talk about being a woman, okay? But I want to talk about the city and then talk about the woman part. So the city, matriarch, patriarch, however you want to point it, it's a big boulder in your life, in anybody's life that's living in the city. We're talking about Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens,
The Bronx,
even Staten Island, and it really cuts at you. It'll fucking cut you.
Mm-hmm.
Cut at you, and they'll keep coming at you and keep coming at you and keep coming at you. So what is your relationship with the city and the energy of the city? How did you pull that together? And you know what I'm talking about. How did you control the lightning and the thunder of the city and the people in it to get where you need to get to, and how you did that? Because you probably had to ally yourself with people. It's maybe even step on people. We don't know. I don't know what the treacherous waters look like for you, right? So tell me about that.
The power of conviction is huge for me. So when I believe my own bullshit, it's very powerful. So I always took my job very seriously. And if I had a job to do and somebody had my back, then I did my job. And I will tell you that is, if there is a magic elixir, it's like not focused on the corner office, not focused on dancing on people's graves. If you do what you're supposed to be doing and you do it well, and you're in the right environment. I really was in a meritocracy. Bruce Ratner believed
was not in a meritocracy.
I was. It was the best man or woman for the job. Now, I was the only woman very often, but I will tell you that I was judged on my performance. You eat what you kill. And the fact is, I knew how to source business. I knew how to do my job well. I knew how to build teams. I knew how to get shit done. And I would say that if I was in an environment where that didn't matter because I wasn't playing golf on Saturday with my boss, I would have been no good.
So the city gave you opportunity. It wielded opportunity.
The city was a playground of opportunity in my business through Koch, through Dinkins on some level, and then obviously through the Bloomberg administration. There was so much opportunity. I found a place where the place I was going to allow me to bring ideas forward. As long as you could defend them, you could bring anything to Bruce Ratner and he would entertain it. You had to be fierce.
So he was your ally.
He was my mentor. You talked about mentors. Bruce Ratner was the great visionary. He believed in doing the impossible, actually, and didn't believe in excuses. And I wasn't a woman as it relates to Bruce Ratner.
I appreciate that.
I was a franchise player. I was a thoroughbred. I was an asset that he was going to empower to do the job.
Unclenched by the, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a woman.
Now, I never got the memo that says you're a woman, you should feel really intimidated being in this meeting. I believed if I had a chair at the table, then I was supposed to be there. And again, because he had my back.
There was an expectation. There was an expectation that you're there.
I was there to do a job. And I think I had this silo ability, like this ability to be myopic about my job. And whether people were talking about me as a woman or a lightweight, I loved being underestimated. It's an amazing
It was a superpower.
Thing. To be underestimated is incredible.
So this, because they don't see you coming. Mm-mm. So the city, in one portion of the time, was your ally. And it was your ally because there's a lot of opportunity there.
Remember that I did economic development, so I started on the public side. I knew the ropes. I knew the kind of land, opportunity, and entitlement that the city could bring to a developer. And so I learned it on the inside. That gave me incredible chops when I moved to the private side.
Aptitude, yeah. Aptitude, right. So
think big, because I didn't want to build buildings, little infill lots in the far reaches of Brooklyn.
So you had a lot of ambition.
I wanted to do large-scale public-private partnerships, because that's where I started. Right.
Your education, quickly, where's that from?
I was on my way to law school. I won a fellowship to go into government. Pick your agency. I was on my way to law school to fight for the rights of juveniles in the justice system. And the advice the fellowship, Urban Fellows, said, pick something outside your 9 dots. Don't go where you're headed. Pick a different. It's a fellowship. It's 9 months.
Right.
So all the commissioners interviewed you. It was after the fiscal crisis. Nobody had any ability to hire any talent. Urban Fellows were supposed to be very talented. So I interviewed the police commissioner, Ben Ward. I was in every commissioner's office. I rolled into economic development. I'll be honest. They had air conditioning. They had carpet. Yeah. They had a board of directors. And by golly, they had a president, not a commissioner. I was like, this is so grown up. And I said, I'm going to hang out here for the summer. It's really freaking hot in the city. And I realized then that I had real estate in my veins because they threw me on these projects. And I was looking at College Point, Queens. I was removing a squatter from the toe-pounding Queens.
So you did everything.
My God. It was like, let's get the girl down the hall. She'll figure it out. And then I realized it was, you said it, human relations. Think about it. Like, where does psychology, the intersection of psychology and business, you know it because it's your training. So I thought to myself, if I just have to figure out how to solve these problems, and this is what real estate development is, sign me up. It's so fun. So I learned it. I met every developer in New York City because we were generating taxes, giving away incentives, and we were keeping companies in New York City when they were all fleeing to New Jersey or Plano, Texas. So I was the corporate retention go-to person. I was structuring those tax deals. I was trying to keep companies in the city. I moved Bear Stearns to Brooklyn. Chemical Bank moved to Brooklyn. Morgan Stanley moved to Brooklyn. That was my job. So I was in a situation where the mayor would say, if you want tax breaks, you need to go look at this space in Brooklyn. And like Sumitomo Bank would come over the Brooklyn Bridge in a bulletproof limousine. They would get out of the car. They'd meet with me. They'd get back in the car. They'd go back over the bridge. We'd never see them again.
So you thought it was fun.
Oh my God, we had to fight harder and work more to win people over in this vision of like Brooklyn, not as a residential place, which it is now. People think, oh, it's so organic that Brooklyn became the hottest place to live. No, I was in Brooklyn in the days when
it was shitty.
It was shitty, and you
Crown
were
Heights
hawking space for
yeah.
$30 a square foot as a low-cost alternative to the very, very expensive real estate in Manhattan.
The city was an ally, and it was an ally in terms of the people that were present in your life, the opportunity presented to you, and how you wielded that power. You know, held the thunder and shot the lightning, and I think there's a lot. I mean, now I've been sitting with you for about 45 minutes. Education is a strong part of what to be successful. I think in real estate, in general, you have to have the education, you have to have the experience, and to do it on such a large scale. But most importantly, in the beginning, you have to have a belief, right? The audacious belief that you can be successful. Because let's face it, a lot of people in education turn up to be paper pushers, right? Yeah. They turn to be project managers. They're not going to be CEO material. And I think sitting here with you today, well, actually not I think, I know That what you've exercised in your mind on a daily basis is, I think you said, if I fail, I can handle it. If I succeed, I exceed all options of everything I could have ever been. And success is thereafter born. I think success is a mindset. I wanted your opinion on it. Is success a mindset or is it a material thing? Because you kept saying, I have something to show for it, I have something to show for it. I think you're forgetting. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just not paying attention. Or maybe you are. That you embody the definition of success in the resilient nature and the way you traverse that terrain. But I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm a dragon slayer. That's what I am. I slay dragons. And I think I've been successful, but I probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about my success. I probably think about what's next.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, it's good to take an inventory. I feel
should.
enormous gratitude and I feel lucky because timing is not unimportant here and luck has something to do with it. And you might say luck comes to people who are predisposed to success. And we can talk about that, right? Chance favors the prepared mind. I was in the right place at the right time. So often I was in the right place at the right time. And the other thing I didn't do, I didn't try to be a man in a skirt. I didn't try to conform. I wasn't ever going to play, golf on Saturdays. I wasn't going to hobnob. I'm not a hobnobber. I'm actually an introvert. I wasn't going to do it the way I saw it happening around me. I was going to do it my way. And
what's your horoscope?
I'm a Gemini. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm a Leo. My wife's a Gemini, so we get along.
Is that why your name
well.
is Leo?
Yeah. No. The reason my name is Leo is because of my grandfather. His name is Leo.
Oh,
he
there
was
you go.
52 years
Named
old when he died. I was in Russia. I never saw him. But yes, I was named after him. And my horoscope is also Leo, but that's just, it happened that way.
Got it.
But it's not about me today. It's about you. So let's talk about the concept of being a woman. I hate this concept, okay? I hate this concept because I don't believe that as a woman, you should be anything other than anyone else trying to be successful in the space. And frankly, I always, when I'm in front of a woman in any capacity, friendship, romantic relationship, businesswoman, I kind of treat them as anybody else. And I don't like to talk about it. I think we have to talk about it because the society pairs it this way. So under protest, I'm going to discuss it. So being a woman in New York City and being a developer at that can present its challenges. It should not present its challenge. Again, that's me and my protesting, right? It should not present challenges, but it does present challenges. But I reckon to argue that it can only present challenges, and you're a woman, I want you to answer this really, that if you see being a woman as a barrier. Said differently, psychologically, if you find that you are as good as anyone else and the color of your skin or who you are as a person, man, woman, purple, black, whatever, should not make, if you believe that it does not make a difference, it will not make a difference. Do you believe that being a woman is a barrier? Has that shown to be true, or did you not pay any mind to or any attention to it? Although society always takes a sharp thing and just puts it into your throat like that. So tell me about that. And I feel very, very passionate about that. That's why I say it this way.
Well, both things can be true at the same time. So let me say we're in a corner office. You wield power. It's easy for you to say that because you're in a position of strength. And I think
as a man, you're saying.
As the head of office here.
Okay.
Just like now, and I sit in my perch, I have a lot more ability to influence these types of things. What I'm getting at is level playing field, which is that if the playing field's level, then you're right. We should just be competing on a level playing field.
Yes.
But I don't think the playing field's always level. And so what I think I'm saying is that when I get to a place where I can influence who I hire, how I comport myself, how I compose teams, how I look at the world, how I look at my industry, I have a lot more juice. I can basically take a meeting with a firm that brings 10 white men into my office and say, these guys are obviously not thinking about the industry the way I'm thinking about it, because even just for pitch purposes, if I'm a female-founded ground-up development firm and you want to pitch me on your business, you probably ought to figure out how to bring some diversity into the room, because guess what? This is the city we live in. I'm building for the community of people in this city. And this is a city that's made up of more than just white men, right?
Correct,
So
I agree
it's
with
good
that.
for business.
I agree with that.
So I think that the way I look at it, the way I looked at it then was,
Yeah, how did
I
you
have a
look at
job to do. I honestly,
You didn't care whether you were a woman or not, right?
now people said crazy
But
shit
that
to me.
helped you. That helped
It did help
you.
me. It did, and I have a thick skin. We
That's
already
the
established
message. That's
that.
the message.
Nobody was going to hurt my feelings. I don't know what they said behind my back. It didn't matter. But as I got more powerful, as I got more authority,
Oh, you started
it got
noticing.
easier. No, it got easier because nobody's going to come up against you. If you're orange and you control the keys to the kingdom, people are going to fall into line.
But when does woman matter?
Well,
When
I
does
think
woman-
I think
when
it
does-
matters always because you know what? I think I said this earlier. I didn't change how I operated because I was a woman. I used the fact that I'm a woman, just like we all use what's before us. I was always lonely in the room. There were not a lot of people that looked
You
like
felt
me.
that. You felt the cold.
I would sometimes not realize it, but when I look back, most often, if I'm in a room of 20 people, there's maybe one or two women. I go on Zooms even still today, and I can remark at how I'm the only woman still. Okay, so I think recognizing that means how am I going to use that to my advantage? I can be charming. I can sound different. I have a different style,
Cunning. You're cunning. I would say you're cunning.
and I think it's okay. I think it's okay because all I'm trying to do is create a level playing field. That's what I want. I don't want an advantage. I want a level playing field. And my job now, as I am now on the board of Jeffries, as I am a founder and a CEO, I just want people to understand that there are plenty of entry ramps for women, not just exit ramps. Because, you know, women can always exit, you know, have a baby, get off. But
Yeah.
the re-entry ramps are really freaking hard. And for some women, just getting in is really hard. So my dent in the universe is to create 3 fine humans in my children and to give the real estate industry a little bit of a makeover and show them that women are unbelievably good at being developers. You know why? Because as
Tell me why.
women, if you want to be a professional and a mother, you've got to collaborate.
No
because
shit.
how the hell are you going to raise a family and stand up a career? We learn really, really early on that the ego isn't the secret. The secret is pulling people into your world and
Correct.
getting them to do things for you
Correct.
and making everybody row in the
Correct.
same
Delegation.
direction. And by the way, not just delegation, collaboration. And women have to collaborate with caregivers, workmates, bosses. And being a developer, you're kind of like an impresario. You're a producer. And you're bringing all these different disciplines together to make something of value. And I think that's what homemakers do. That's what a lot of women do. And guess what? That makes them really freaking good at real estate development. So why are there not more real estate developers that are women?
I don't know.
It's
Maybe
just
it's the barrier.
gonna
Maybe it's
take-
the barrier. Maybe it's their mental barrier. What do you think? I'm a woman. I can't do it. MaryAnne Gilmartin. She's a unicorn. Doink. She's a unicorn. So look.
I'm here to tell you that it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of it has to do with the socialization of people
That's why I say
professionally.
society.
Yeah, women or young girls in school, what kinds of role models they see. And investment banking is the same thing. I sit on the board at Jeffries, and it's changing. It's just going to take time. A lot of these professions heretofore have not been open to women. You wouldn't hire a woman if you wanted a good developer. You wouldn't. You'd think they can't do it. So what do I represent? Maybe one small example of the fact that is not true.
Right. So, but you're right, and I think you'll be.
Do you have a
biting
daughter?
I do, Charlize.
Okay.
And the 3 of our litigators, the top litigators here in our office, are women. Okay. You met my senior associate Muriel.
Yep.
Maria's with them. We have Ellen coming in from Cal Walder on my birthday, which is this Monday. She's going to be coming in. So you know, a lot of our litigators are women. I don't see women as women. I see them as people. And I see men as people and kids as people and elders as people. And that has helped shaped my way of thinking, and I've become successful for that reason. And I think for all the women in the world, including my daughter and including your daughter, psychologically or mentally thinking, I'm a person, I have to do good in the world, and do not pay attention to what society tells you, because like MaryAnne Gilmartin, you can push your way through if you have enough resilience, great, no fear of rejection, and you collaborate, and you understand what it takes to build a company. I think you do sit at the exception table, though.
Yeah.
I don't think you sit at the regular table. And neither, I think, do the people that sit in corner offices, because they have a tremendous responsibility to themselves to do one thing. And I've always said this, and I've adopted this phrase, and I think I'm going to tell you today. Empower yourself by empowering others. Empower yourself by empowering others. That is difficult to do because some people can't hold up themselves. And I think that's the notation of confronting the impossible is how do you do it? You do it through the tenements of what you said. Resilience, grit, no fear of rejection, collaborating, utterly, irrefutably believing in yourself every single day. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Mary, I wanted to thank you for joining me on Confronting the Impossible today. I hope you had a tremendous time with me because I had a tremendous time
Lots
with
of
you.
fun. Thank you for having me.
It was very, very, very insightful, energetic, and I will not forget this one. We're always here for you. And to the public, if you have some post questions for MaryAnne, I'm sure she'll take some questions from you from a New York City powerhouse developer. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.